Hi friends, this is Suma from softwaretestingmaterial.com. In this video, we are going to see advanced Selenium interview questions. What are the challenges and limitations of Selenium WebDriver? As we all know, Selenium WebDriver is a tool which automates the browser to mimic real user actions on the web. Selenium is a free open source testing tool. Some of the challenges with Selenium WebDriver are: we cannot test Windows application. Selenium doesn't support Windows based applications. It supports only web based applications. We cannot test mobile apps. We can test on any operating system and browser on the desktop using Selenium, but we can't deal mobile testing with Selenium alone. But there is a solution for this. You can use Appium to handle iOS and Android native, mobile and hybrid apps using the WebDriver protocol. Limited reporting. With Selenium, you could not generate a good report, but there is a workaround. You can generate reports using TestNG or extend reports. Handling dynamic elements. Some of the web elements are dynamic in nature. If an element's ID is changing on every page load, then it is bit tricky to handle this in a normal way. We need to handle the dynamic elements with dynamic XPath or dynamic CSS selectors. Functions like starts with, contains, ends with works well to handle dynamic objects. Handling page load. Some of the web pages are user specific. These user specific pages load different elements depends on the different user. Sometimes some elements appear depends upon the previous action. If you choose a country from country dropdown, then cities related that country will load in the cities dropdown. In runtime, Selenium script may not identify the element. To overcome this, we need to use explicit waits in the script to give the elements enough time to load and to identify the element. Handling pop up windows. Windows based pop ups are part of the operating system. It's beyond Selenium's capabilities. We could use Auto IT to handle the Windows based pop ups. Handling CAPTCHA. Handling CAPTCHA is a limitation in Selenium. There are some third party tools to automate CAPTCHA, but still, we can't achieve 100% results. How to build object repository in your project. In QTP, there is an object repository concept. When an user records a test, the objects and its properties are captured by default in an object repository. QTP uses this object repository to play back the scripts. Coming to Selenium, there is no default object repository concept. It doesn't mean that there is no object repository in Selenium. Even though there is no default one, still we could create our own. In Selenium, we call objects as locators, such as ID, name, class name, tag name, link text, partial link text, XPath, and CSS. Object repository is a collection of objects. One of the ways to create object repository is to place all the locators in a separate file. But the best way is to use page object model. In the page object model design pattern, each web page is represented as a class. All the objects related to a particular page of a web application are stored in a class. What is page object model in Selenium? Page object model is a design pattern which has become popular in Selenium test automation. It is widely used design pattern in Selenium for enhancing test maintenance and reducing code duplication. Page object model can be used in any kind of framework such as modular, data driven, keyword driven, hybrid framework. A page object is an object oriented class that serves as an interface to a page of your application under test. The tests then use the methods of this page object class whenever they need to interact with the user interface of that page. The benefit is that if the UI changes for the page, the tests themselves don't need to change. Only the code within the page object needs to change. Subsequently, all changes to support that new UI is located in one place. What is Page Factory? We have seen that page object model is a way of representing an application in a test framework. For every page in the application, we create a page object to reference the page, whereas a page factory is one way of implementing the page object model. What is the difference between page object model and page factory? Page object is a class that represents a web page and hold the functionality and members. Page factory is a way to initialize the web elements you want to interact with within the page object when you create an instance of it. What are the advantages of page object model? Code reusability. We could achieve code reusability by writing the code once and use it in different tests. Code maintainability. There is a clean separation between test code and page specific code, such as locators and layout, which becomes very easy to maintain code. Code changes only on page object classes. When an UI change occurs, it enhances test maintenance and reduces code duplication. Object repository. Each page will be defined as a Java class. All the fields in the page will be defined in an interface as members. The class will then implement the interface. Readability improves readability due to clean separation between test code and page specific code. How to take a screenshot in Selenium. Test cases may fail while executing the test scripts. While we are executing the test cases manually, we just take a screenshot and place in a result repository. The same can be done by using Selenium WebDriver. Some of the scenarios we may need to capture a screenshot using Selenium WebDriver are application issues, assertion failure, difficulty to find web elements on the web page, timeout to find web elements on the web page. Selenium provides an interface called takes screenshot, which has a method getScreenshotAs, which can be used to take a screenshot of the application under test. Syntax to capture and save the screenshot. Syntax to store it in our local drive. For example, how to drag and drop in Selenium WebDriver. In some applications, we may face a situation to automate drag and drop an item from one location to another location. We could not achieve these using basic elements. Selenium has provided an actions class to handle this kind of scenarios. We've overcome this kind of scenarios such as drag and drop using actions class. To achieve this, we use actions class in Selenium WebDriver. To get source locator. To get target locator. Create object action of actions class. Use drag and drop method. It accepts two parameters source and target. What are the types of frameworks in Selenium? Some of the most popular test automation frameworks are linear scripting framework, modular testing framework, data driven testing framework, keyword driven testing framework, hybrid testing framework, and behavior driven development framework. Now let's move on and see each framework in detail. Linear scripting framework. Linear scripting framework is a basic level test automation framework which is in the form of record and playback in a linear fashion. This framework is also known as record and playback framework. This type of framework is used to test small sized applications. This type, creation and execution of test script are done individually for each test case. Using this framework, we could generate test scripts without planning much or consume much time. But it has its own drawbacks, such as lack of reusability, and hardcoding the data does not allow to run with multiple datasets. Modular testing framework. In modular testing framework, testers create test scripts on module wise by breaking down the complete application under test into smaller independent tests. Simple words, testers divide the application into multiple modules and create test scripts individually. These individual test scripts can be combined to make larger test scripts by using a master script to achieve required scenarios. This master script is used to invoke the individual modules to run end to end test scenarios. In this framework, testers write function libraries to use it whenever required. This is also known as modularity framework or module based framework. Data driven framework. Data driven test automation framework is focused on separating the test script's logic and the test data from each other. Allows us to create test automation scripts by passing different sets of test data. The test data set is kept in the external files or resources such as MS Excel sheets, MS Access tables, SQL database, XML files, etc. The test scripts connect to the external resources to get the test data. By using this framework, we could easily make the test scripts work properly for different sets of test data. This framework significantly reduces the number of test scripts compared to module based framework. This framework gives more test coverage with reusable tests and flexibility in execution of tests only when required, and by changing only the input test data and reliable in terms of no impact on tests by changing the test data. But it has its own drawbacks, such as testers who work on this framework needs to have hands-on programming knowledge to develop test scripts. Keyword driven testing framework. It is also known as table driven testing or action word based testing. In keyword driven testing, we use a table format to define keywords or action words for each function or method that we would execute. It performs automation test scripts based on the keywords specified in the Excel sheet. By using this framework, testers can work with keywords to develop any test automation script. Testers with less programming knowledge would also be able to work on these test scripts. The logic to read keywords and call the required action mentioned in the external Excel sheet is placed in the main class. Keyword driven testing is similar to data driven testing. Even though to work on this framework does not require much programming skills, but the initial setup requires more expertise. Hybrid driven testing framework. Hybrid test automation framework is the combination of two or more frameworks. It attempts to leverage the strengths and benefits of other frameworks for the particular test environment it manages. Most of the teams are building this hybrid driven framework in the current market. Behavior driven development testing framework. The purpose of this behavior driven development framework is to create a platform which allows everyone, such as business analysts, developers, testers, etc., to participate actively. It requires increased collaboration between development and test teams. It doesn't require the users to be acquainted with a programming language. We use non technical natural language to create test specifications. Some of the tools available in the market for behavior driven development is JBehave, Cucumber, etc. How to work with Excel files in Selenium. We can use JXL or Apache POI library to work with Excel files in Selenium. Apache POI is widely used library in the industry to work with Excel files in Selenium. Handling Excel files using Apache POI in Selenium WebDriver. As we all know, Selenium supports only web browser automation. We need to get the help of third-party API like Apache POI to handle Excel files using Selenium WebDriver. What is Apache POI? Apache POI is an open source library developed and distributed by Apache Software Foundation to design or modify Microsoft Office files using Java program. It is a popular API that allows to work around Excel files using Java programs. In short, you can read and write MS Excel files using Java. Apache POI is your Java Excel solution. You could use HSSF if you need to read or write an Excel file using Java XLS. You could use XSSF if you need to read or write an XML Excel file using Java XLSX. It has many predefined methods, classes, and interfaces. How to handle Ajax calls in Selenium WebDriver. Handling Ajax calls is one of the common issues when using Selenium WebDriver. We would not know when the Ajax call would get completed and the page has been updated. In this, we see how to handle Ajax calls using Selenium. Ajax stands for Asynchronous JavaScript and XML. Ajax allows the web page to retrieve small amounts of data from the server without reloading the entire page. Ajax allows the web page to retrieve small amounts of data from the server without reloading the entire page. Ajax sends HTTP requests from the client to server and then process the server's response without reloading the entire page. To handle Ajax controls, wait commands may not work. It's just because the actual page is not going to refresh. When you click on a submit button, the required information may appear on the web page without refreshing the browser. Sometimes it may load in a second, and sometimes it may take longer. We have no control over loading time. The best approach to handle this kind of situations in Selenium is to use dynamic waits, that is, WebDriver wait in combination with expected condition. Some of the methods which are available are title is the expected condition waits for a page with a specific title. Element to be clickable. The expected condition waits for an element to be clickable. That is, it should be present or displayed or visible on the screen as well as enabled. Alert is present. The expected condition waits for an alert box to appear. Text to be present in element. The expected condition waits for an element having a certain string pattern. What is JavaScript Executor? And in which cases JavaScript Executor will help in Selenium automation? In general, we click on an element using click method in Selenium. For example, driver.findElement by id value dot click. Sometimes web controls don't react well against Selenium commands, and we may face issues with the above statement click. To overcome such kind of situation, we use JavaScript Executor interface. It provides a mechanism to execute JavaScript through Selenium driver. It provides execute script and execute asynchronous script methods to run JavaScript in the context of the currently selected frame or window. There is no need to write a separate script to execute JavaScript within the browser using Selenium WebDriver script. Just we use predefined interface named JavaScript Executor. We need to import the JavaScript Executor package in the script. Let's see some scenarios we could handle using this interface. To type text in Selenium WebDriver without using sendKeys method. To click a button in Selenium WebDriver using JavaScript. To handle checkbox. To generate alert pop window in Selenium. To refresh browser window using JavaScript. To get inner text of the entire web page in Selenium. To get the title of our web page. To get the domain. To get the URL of a web page. To perform scroll on an application using Selenium. To click on a submenu which is only visible on mouse over on menu. To navigate to different page using JavaScript. What are the exceptions you have faced in your project? Some of the exceptions I have faced in my current project are element not visible exception, stale element reference exception, element not visible exception. This exception will be thrown when you are trying to locate a particular element on web page that is not currently visible even though it is present in the DOM. Also sometimes if you are trying to locate an element with the XPath which associates with two or more elements. Stale element reference exception. A stale element reference exception is thrown in one of two cases, the first being more common than the second. The two reasons for stale element reference are the element has been deleted entirely. The element is no longer attached to the DOM. We face this stale element reference exception when the element we are interacting is destroyed and then recreated again. When this happens, the reference of the element in the DOM becomes a stale. Hence, we are not able to get the reference to the element. What is the difference between findElement and findElements? FindElement method. FindElement method is used to access a single web element on a page. It returns the first matching element. It throws a no such element exception when it fails to find the element. FindElements method. FindElements method returns the list of all matching elements. The findElement method throws a no such element exception when the element is not available on the page. Whereas the findElements method returns an empty list when the element is not available or does not exist on the page. It does not throw no such element exception. Have you used any cross browser testing tool to run Selenium scripts on cloud? I have used BrowserStack to run Selenium tests on multiple browsers and multiple operating systems in parallel. Earlier, we have made a video on how to use BrowserStack to run Selenium scripts on the cloud. Find the link in the description below. How to handle uploading and downloading files in your project. We can use robot class or AutoIT or Sikuli code to handle uploading and downloading files in Selenium. What is desired capabilities? In Selenium, we use desired capabilities to handle SSL certificates in Chrome browser. We need to create an instance of desired capabilities. Here is the code to suppress all SSL errors and accept all the SSL certificates in Chrome. What is continuous integration? Continuous integration is abbreviated as CI. Continuous integration is a development practice which aims to make sure the correctness of a software. After each commit, a suite of tests run automatically and test the software to ensure whether the software is running without any breaks. If any test fails, we will get immediate feedback say build is broken. In simple words, continuous integration is a process of verifying the correctness of a software. Some of the continuous integration tools are Jenkins, TeamCity, Bamboo, Travis, Circle CI, Bitbucket. We can schedule the test suite execution using these CI tools. How to achieve database testing in Selenium? As we all know, Selenium WebDriver is a tool to automate user interface. We could only interact with the browser using Selenium WebDriver. Sometimes we may face a situation to get the data from the database or to modify the data from the database. If we plan to automate anything outside the vicinity of a browser, then we need to use other tools to achieve our task. To achieve the database connection and work on it, we need to use JDBC API driver. To achieve the database connection and work on it, we need to use JDBC API driver. The Java database connectivity API provides universal data access from the Java programming language. Using the JDBC API, you can access virtually any data source, from relational databases to spreadsheets and flat files. It lets the user connect and interact with the database and fetch the data based on the queries we use in the automation script. JDBC is a SQL level API that allows us to execute SQL statements. It creates a connectivity between Java programming language and the database. Using JDBC driver, we could do the following. Establish a database connection. Send SQL queries to the database. Process the results. That's it, friends. We will come up with more advanced interview questions in the next video. If you have any queries, please comment below. If you did enjoy this video, be sure to like the video. Don't forget to subscribe this channel by clicking the subscribe button and press bell icon to get some interesting videos on software testing, both manual and automation. I will see you soon in the next video. Thank you. Have a good day.